So this is going to be a build channel. I'm starting off with the car that this camera is currently sitting on, which is a 1986 924S. I bought it probably about 5 or 6 years ago. You may have seen it if you're into Porsches in GT Porsche magazine. It was bought by me for £400 as a non-runner to basically have something that I could build into a track car, and then also have a method in which I could learn how to do mechanical things, which I've always had an interest in and wanted to do. So I've now got to the stage where I'm driving this thing pretty much as hard as I can on track, and I think that yes, I could go quicker if I drove better, but at the same time I think a few more horsepower probably wouldn't go amiss. So the idea is to take the existing engine out and replace it with this. So the engine that's in there is the 2.5 litre 4-cylinder 160 horsepower engine, which is from a later model of this car and from the 944, and that itself replaced the engine that's sat in the corner here, which is the original 150 horsepower one. There's very little difference between the two, to be honest with you. Didn't really notice much. So I've done a straight engine swap, but I haven't really done much more than that. This is completely different. This is a 1.8 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, 1.8T. It's from the Volkswagen Audi group. This one, I think, if I remember rightly, came out of a Audi Passat. Is it Passat? Yeah, Passat. It's also in the A4 or the A6 as well. It's 150 horsepower as I bought it. I bought it as a non-runner. I'm hoping that it is actually going to work. So obviously there's everything that I need to do to not mess it up. But once all that's done and everything's in place, I just hope the engine's a runner. If not, it's a few £100 that it cost me, and it's going to be a template. I've done some work on it so far, so I've just cleaned it up, stripped everything off it, fairly obviously, and replaced a lot of the serviceable parts, so the pulley, tensioner, belts, and yeah, a few of the internal seals and the cam cover seal as well. So hopefully from that perspective everything looked okay. It turns okay on the crank with me turning by hand. Doesn't seem to be anything knocking, clattering or stopping it at all. So yeah, hopefully it's a good one. So what was the fun? Oh yeah, the other point I wanted to make about this is with regards to this channel, and I'm sure a lot of the things I'll do will come in for criticism, assuming people watch, is the fact that I don't really know what I'm doing. I've got an idea of what I want to do. I have seen this done a few different ways, this particular engine swap. It's definitely not a bolt-in one. So I'm going to be learning as I'm doing, which is the main thing that I wanted out of this. I'm filming it partly because I enjoy making videos. I've done some track ones and what have you on my, and a few fixed ones on my other channel, which I've enjoyed, and I very much enjoy watching build videos. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Hopefully I don't do anything really stupid, but you never know. That would probably be more entertaining. So yeah, a lot of working things through as I go along, and hopefully people will enjoy it as well. So the one thing which I'm going to start with, which will be this video, is actually removing the engine from the car, which is something that I've done actually twice before now. Once took the original one out to reseal it, and then took that one out permanently to replace it with the one that's in there now. So something I'm reasonably familiar with. It's not actually that difficult a job. There's a few little snagging bits, and space is a bit of a pain in the ass, but other than that it's relatively straightforward. So yeah, going to start off with taking the engine out of the car. So is when you're jacking these up, if you haven't done it before, doing it from either side is to take it up part way, then the other side higher, and then finish off all the way on this side. Otherwise, it tends to move around on the stands a bit too much for my liking. People may be happy and confident doing the whole thing in one go, but that's just the way that I prefer to do it. Okay, so that's now on there, pretty solid. Try. In the passenger's footwell are the fuses. So these are the main fuses for lights, horn, and what have you. The DME relay is just up here, and I'm going to remove this, which is hopefully fuse number 2 to the fuel pump. So now, hopefully, the car will start, run for as much fuel as is in there, and then cut out. Okay, so without the fuel pump on to put more fuel in the engine, it's basically used up what was at the front there and depressurised the fuel system, so that when we remove the fuel lines, there won't be high pressure petrol squirting out all over. It's no longer needed. What I'm doing, hopefully, be able to just remove the battery now. Probably, so obviously everything needs to come out. Anything that's connected to this, the engine basically needs to be removed. So the main things actually, so the airbox needs to be removed. That's relatively, I say relatively straightforward. It's often a bit of a pain, but yeah. So there's that. The radiator, there's the starter motor, clutch, everything underneath. So I'll just start working through those. And this was as it was when I got it, so I don't know if it's meant to be any different, but the radiator has always just been held on with cable ties. I don't know if somebody was trying to be JDM about it, but here we go. So the fan is definitely going to have to come off in order to remove the radiator. This is going to end up being a mess, but just because it's petrol, Let's see what we can do. So one of the truly hateful parts of this job is removing the control module from up here from inside the driver's footwell. The cable's then disconnected and pushed back through the firewall. So I'm going to get on with that now, and not something I think you need to watch me swearing and clattering about. Pretty much everything's disconnected from the engine now. There's a few bits which I'm going to need to do when the engine moves forward, which is actually the main reason for taking out the radiator and fan, is just to give that extra space. I'll probably remove the distributor cap for the same reason, just give it a bit of room moving forwards. I'm going to try and film this. I'm not sure how well it's going to come out, but now I need to get underneath the car, disconnect the clutch slave, disconnect the starter motor, which all bolt onto the back of the bell housing, and then there's 4 bolts that go around the back of the bell housing which need to be disconnected. Underneath the car now, safety goggles on because the amount of stuff that I always seem to manage to get in my eyes whenever I'm working on the car. And first thing I'm going to do is just remove the starter motor. So with that done, there's now the 4 bolts that need to be removed from the torque tube housing. And the other thing which I'd almost forgotten about is I need to remove the exhaust section. Okay, I wasn't actually going to bother with this, but to just create more room around the front for when this is all coming out, I'm just going to pop the alternator off. The engine's now looking a lot more bare, with quite a few bits removed. So the expansion tank's gone, the airbox is gone, radiator, everything from under here, a load of hoses across the front. Unplugs a lot of the wiring, there's still things to do. The fuel line's disconnected from that. The brake booster vacuum line, there may be 1 or 2 other vacuum lines that snag on the way out. And then pretty much everything around here. From this side, it's nice and easy. So essentially they're the same on both sides. You've got this rubber mount which bolts through the cross member, and you've got 2 bolts, 1 on either side there. So it's simply a case of undo those, lift the engine up, and hopefully it doesn't catch on too much, and just remove whatever wires and hoses I've missed. So let's get on with that. So new tactic now then is to try and drop it out the bottom, having removed the cross member. Okay. Ooh, okay, so we've got a hose here that's stopping something from moving. That's done. load of other wiring, so I think now is the time to try. After longer than I expected, an empty engine bay. Just need to find out what I can put and where. Plenty of space in here. A lot of this is going to be coming out, moving or doing whatever. And thanks for watching if you made it this far. First episode, and hopefully with the work that's going to be going into the new engine, should get a whole lot more interesting from now on. Catch you later.